John and Pete Najarian are going to both played linebacker in the NFL, but both are tech wizards as well. Market Rebellion is the name of their firm, and we'll talk to them. And these guys, John and Pete, they developed an algorithm called Heat Seeker, and they saw unusual activity on it. And United and American Airlines days before 9/11, and they gave it to the FBI. And we'll get into, well, we know how it ended, but we'll get into what happened next. With John and Pete Najarian right after this. Kids, focus on the kids. Crate train them. Get those puppies trained. Get them in the fucking crate early, and they'll listen to their master for the rest of their life. Can't crate train these dudes. They're too fucking old.
Don't try.
We are too old.
Do not try.
People have tried.
But the kids, get them early. Get them into the fucking crate and train them up, and they'll be obedient little citizens for the rest of their fucking lives. Don't think I don't know what's going on. John and Pete Najarian are here. John, I've spoken to before. Pete, well, they're brothers. Obviously, both played in the NFL, so we should talk about that. Also have an educational firm. Market Rebellion provides online courses and stocks, options, crypto, which we talked about with John before, as well.
I've got an NFT for you, by the way.
You do?
Our guys made up an NFT just for you.
That is awesome.
Oh, my God, that's amazing.
It is, our zombie collective made this up.
Wow.
And wait, we've got three because
The
there's
angel.
another one, the angel.
Wow.
So far, the crazed robot, the angel,
And there's another angel.
We got a
The
devil
golden
angel.
angel.
I love it.
a righteous gemstones line.
Thank you.
We'll get this to you, Adam, because we're really giving you this NFT.
That is fabulous.
Well, let's go to NFT for a second, and I'll have poor Chris look around on the internet. But I like cars. I like looking at the vintage cars and the old race cars and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes I'll go onto the website, Gooding and Company, RM, some of the bigger ones, and they'll go like, here are the results from our last month's auction. And they're doing a lot online now, and so they will sell like, Mario Andretti's steering wheel from 1969 season F1 car. There's some memorabilia, some plaques, and some cups. For the first time, I got to the bottom when I was done with all the cars, and there were NFTs.
You bet.
Like a picture of a car, and it was like $7,500 for this thing that no one can truly explain. But Chris,
But you can prove that
Gooding
it's
or
the
RM.
only one.
Right.
Right.
You can prove through the blockchain, you can prove that that is the only one of that. Just
Right.
like the one I showed you as far as your NFT.
I don't mean any disrespect, but there's only one of my mom, and no one gives a shit. I think that's how I would rebut that.
Well,
Well said.
but you're a famous dude, got a lot of fans, and so people want to own pieces of incidents like that, of somebody famous, whether it's Odell Beckham, making a touchdown catch in the Super Bowl. They might be willing to buy that, especially if it came with anything else, and in many cases it does.
Well, where are we in look, I just heard the inflation. It always bums me out because they go, we are now at the highest inflation since February of 1982, which is when I was fixing to leave high school, not go to college, and wander around North Hollywood looking for a job. The only difference, and I would argue to the young depressed kids today, I applied at the Taco Bell in North Hollywood, no takers. Like, what? So how
now
does
they're begging for guys like you?
But how does this? How does this work? In that I had, when I graduated high school, super high inflation and no hiring. Now it's super high inflation and everyone is hiring.
That's true.
Why? How can those two worlds sort of live together?
Well, they sort of live together because of the high inflation. A lot of that inflation is, as you know, supply and demand. In the case of supply, there's not enough. There's not enough workers willing to go back to work. So pushes demand stays high, and that means they can demand more cash, whether it's the ingredients that go into making that taco at Taco Bell or that burrito, or whether it's
Bell beefer at the time, old school,
or whether it's the amount of money they got to pay you per hour to work there. All of that is pushing inflation up, and it's like I say, it really is a supply problem right now, not a demand problem. There's a lot of demand.
The demand's there.
Is part of the supply problem? This is from the mouth of babes because I really don't know any of this stuff. But like my parents, and we've talked about this, over the course of their lifetime, owned 1.5 sofas. Like for their entire life. There's one where they moved, someone died, they got their sofa. I've probably owned 23 sofas over the course of my life. I mean, we're just buying more shit. Like we didn't shop like this. There was Christmas and there was your birthday. You didn't get shit between those
Randomly
two.
just showed up.
Go on to Amazon and just go shopping on a Tuesday.
Well, and I told you when I was 3 years old, I drew all over our white Naugahyde couches. They threw an Afghan over it, and they're still in my house.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Pete's building a house down in Florida because he's the rich one.
Yeah.
And so he's building a house
I'm
down
the
there.
rich one.
You can't get most of what he needs for his house. It is out there 3 months, 6 months into the future. I know you know this
more
because
than
you're
that.
a construction guy in your prior life.
Yeah, well, I mean,
as well as mechanic.
I still do shit. I mean, plywood went from $41 a sheet to $102 a sheet. Like it got really expensive. I don't know, all the building supplies, all the everything. And
Yeah,
I'm also
lumber, all that stuff. Yeah.
what about labor? I mean, you need
Brutal.
some skilled labor.
There's nobody out there. We're building a house, and it's unbelievable. Nobody wants to work. I don't know how they survive, but they decide they don't want to work. And you talk about supply chain. I was just talking to one of the guys who was working inside the house, and he was telling me, luckily, we don't need new trusses in the house, for your ceilings, the roof, and the whole
I know
deal.
what a truss is.
I didn't want to go over you, man. No, but he said it's 1 year out.
Wow.
It's 1 year out for those. So if you're building your house right now, my wife, such a wonderful woman, she went out, she bought the refrigerators and all the appliances 9 months ago, knowing that it's going to take over a year to build the house.
I think I've found an answer, which is I know nothing about tech. So whenever these guys screw the pooch, they go, internet's out. I'll go, how come we didn't have? I told you to go look. We got internet. And I go, nah. And I just walk away because I can't challenge
with the
them.
router or the
But
modem.
I am a blue collar guy, and I just found our internet. It's supply chain. So you come in, I screwed the pooch. I didn't order the bar joists or the truss or the paralams or whatever, and I fucked up. And then you go, hey, man, what's going on? Where are these paralams? I go, supply chain. We got an issue. And you go, fuck, and you walk away and go work on the internet. It's a two-way
Probably
street
say
now.
fuck a lot.
So, yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Speaking of the labor thing, you guys are financial guys. I want to drill down on this because I don't know anything about this. I only know what I see or read or whatever. Is the narrative that people aren't working because it's more profitable to collect unemployment or whatever, is that accurate? Or because what I see, I see my wife works she's an executive at a big company, and a lot of her like mid-level people are leaving for better jobs. You know what I mean? Like, so it feels like the jobs are like, I don't feel like In-N-Out has the same problem Taco Bell does. You know what I mean? Because they pay a little more and it's a better job. I wonder if they're getting those people. People are scaling up in their careers. But you tell me, what does the data say, or what are you seeing?
Well, an awful lot of people, of course, were afraid to go back because, unfortunately, they beat them over the head for 18 months about how they were all going to die. And,
Oh, sure, for jobs you have to go
unless
to.
you're Garcetti and you can say, I held my breath.
Right.
I held my breath when I was next to Magic Johnson. But
Which is, I argue that's kind of a hate crime.
it's kind of, I thought it was
up
kind of
next to a
racist.
man of color
I
and hold
held
your
my
breath?
breath when I was next to him. Why'd you hold your breath? Well, he didn't smell so good.
It's unbelievable.
But yeah, I think, Brian, the issue is that in many cases they are taking better jobs. In other cases, they've just found enough gig work that they can work
to
around
make it.
and say, you know what? I used to spend $200, $400 a month on either a train pass or gasoline to get to and from. I'd lose an hour each way and, blah, blah, blah. And they go, I have a better life. I don't make quite as much money, but I'm making things work. And between that and unemployment and blah, 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 I mean, I think all that plays into it.
It's cobbling together.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I also think that we have done something that's a little dangerous, which is we've undervalued the importance of work, like actual work, like what that brings psychologically to anyone who's out there, a little sense of pride or, a job well done or all the cliches from the past. And we've sort of done this thing where it's like, you could get $600 a week doing this, or you could get $600 a week staying home. So I'll stay home and break even, but you're not breaking even because you're atrophying. Right. Your mind is getting weak. You're getting weird. You're getting angry. You're getting fat. Like
antisocial.
We need that. And that's what worries me a little about, it's guaranteed income, or what is universal income and stuff like that. Like supplementing something is fine, but when it takes the place of, we're getting into some real dangerous waters here. Lamborghini and RM auctioned NFTs this month. So the two big car auctions are RM auctioned off a Lamborghini, I guess. NFT.
So what they give you is they give you this. They give you a key, which is like it has a QR code on it, and then when you scan it, you see the artwork on your phone, or you can see it on your TV. And so they in the first 4 days of February, they auctioned off 5 of them, and they went up to as high as $204,000.
Really?
Yeah.
Adam, don't sleep on this.
But look, if you're trying to get laid, spend the $200 on a real Gallardo, because you pull up on that first date in your fucking camera, you
show them the
roll,
picture.
check my phone out.
Scan this.
Want to start blowing now, or do you want to after dinner? Oh man, they make like 1,000 of those Gallardos, but there's only 5 of these, baby. Now get in the cloth interior Toyota Camry and let's go off to Spago.
On the other hand, if you can buy that NFT of the Lamborghini and then sell it to somebody else who, because of its rarity or any of these other terms that they use for this stuff, you're able to make 5,000, 10,000. I mean, I was in Switzerland 3 weeks ago. They were doing a big NFT auction, and I was speaking at a crypto conference, so a bunch of us went down to the auction. And granted, it was for charity, but they had NFTs that people were bidding at that time 10 ETH, meaning Ethereum. They're buying for 10 ETH, which was at that time about $35,000. Something that you're just like going, well, it's okay, I guess, but why would you buy this for that? Well, because somebody else will come along and buy it for more.
Yeah, well, is that
if
what's
it's
happening
rare
with,
enough?
Is that sort of the crypto idea? And then also, if you had a teenage son and you told him you just bought a new Lambo and he ran for the garage, you were chasing behind him, holding your phone up. Sorry, go ahead,
It's going to
Brian.
run you. Well, okay, 2 thoughts. One, how is the resale market on NFTs? Is there one? Do you have enough data yet? Number 2,
Massive.
Is it profitable?
Very.
Okay, the second question, feels obvious to me this is a money laundering scheme?
Well,
Not on the blockchain, right?
Well,
The NFTs?
you know every one that's been purchased and the wallet that it went to, whether it's a Meta wallet or whatever. You know where it went. They could track it, as you saw this week. 2 people stole $3.5
they recovered it.
billion, and U.S. recovered it. So right now, by the way, U.S. government is the largest holder of Bitcoin.
Because they have
those coins until they redistribute them out. But I think
I like the Apple dumpling gangs. Like, we're breaking into Fort Knox. They have the 350 large in there. Sorry. Now start tunneling, boys. Sorry.
when you're seeing these NFTs, I mean, for instance, the first 3 days of the year, there were $750 million worth of NFTs purchased globally.
Okay.
And obviously some of those will become worth 5 times, 10 times, 100 times what they're originally purchased for. And others will be worth nothing. You'll have this terrible squiggly line that somebody drew, because somebody really did buy a squiggly line, digital squiggly line, and they paid that for it. That puts it on track to be the global traditional market for art is about $65 billion. Okay. If we were able to maintain the pace that we're at right now, we'd be at $90 billion this year for NFT art. So in other words, it's streaming past regular art.
Because there's going to be an NFT for the Mona Lisa.
You bet.
Right? I mean,
It can be
already has. Now, what's this mean for a guy, we brought, his name popped up earlier, a guy like Quentin Tarantino? He's got created all this visual product.
Or any songwriting rights.
Yes. Can you, is a guy like that
Intellectual
sitting on a
property.
virtual gold mine?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, he is. He's sitting on a gold mine, and I wanted to hook you and him up for cars because he has a lot of the cars from all of his movies.
Oh, he does.
And I think maybe with Mike August, I was saying you should get Adam and Quentin together because he has all the famous cars from his movie, Pussy Wagon, and all the other cars, that he's got from
All the
Kill
classics.
Bill. Yeah, all the classics. Probably the one that hit Ving Rhames.
right.
Bruce
Right.
Willis
It's like a Honda
Rhames.
Civic.
But he has those. And I said, if you guys got together, you could make millions in the car shows and things like that, whether it's New York Auto Show, LA Auto Show. You pay this much extra to go in and see Adams and Quentin's cars and things like that. But yeah, you could put any of that stuff on an NFT. You're going to have songs on there. Yep. You're going to have clips from movies and things like that. And you can prove that this is the only one of that because it's all verified on the blockchain and so forth. And so instead of paying hundreds of millions of dollars for a piece of art and then having to insure it for hundreds of thousands of dollars and so forth, you could just have this digital stuff and hope that it gets the same sort of appreciation. Will it? Time will tell. I mean, that's why we're making these the Zombie Collective is all about us. We're doing these for ballers, for presidents, for stars of stage and screen and things like that. And it's all going to be zombie NFTs of those folks. So Adam joined there.
Where are we at with crypto and the government? Because I'm hearing a lot of talk that the government's kind of chasing this. So, we had a gold standard, but we don't really have that anymore. I don't know, we're $30 trillion worth of deficit.
Can it be taxed?
Well, there's a taxing part, but there's also the part where the government isn't controlling it. And
Decentralized
they
currency.
want to control things, last I checked.
Yep.
So
You're correct.
that's got to be coming, right?
Yeah, and
Regulators,
more or less the people that own the wallet companies, whether it's Ledger or whether it's MetaMask or any of these companies that make wallets and so forth, and certainly all the brokers like Coinbase you're familiar with, even if you've never used it, you've probably heard of them. And they have to report back to the government the net number of dollars in, dollars out if you cashed out. So in other words, you traded out of a Bitcoin. That's why so many people never completely leave the digital. They go from Bitcoin into a stable coin, back into Ethereum, back into a stable coin. They trade back and forth, but they don't take any money out.
It would be like cashing out of your 401k.
Yeah.
They're going to
Oh,
take their chunk.
Walking
Yep.
around with casino chips.
Right.
But the government would want that tax on that, but it is really hard for them to determine what the tax would be if you're not pulling money out of that account. And instead you're just trading back and forth.
Is there some parallels to sort of big tech, which is, these guys started Twitter and Facebook and all this stuff, Google and everything else, and the government just sort of watched them for a while or sort of let them go. And then lately they're kind of like, hey, we'd like to kind of get involved, see what you're talking about, maybe have some things we don't want you to talk about and stuff we will let you talk about. Like, they're not going to just sit idly and watch some $1 trillion thing go down and not start to kind of, or grow to the size that it is and will grow to, and not start wetting their beak, right?
Oh, yeah. I would agree. Regulation is coming, but Brian mentioned decentralized. Decentralized means that no government anywhere, unless you shut down the internet, you can't stop it because they just go to Malta, they bounce over to Singapore, they go over to 10 different locations around the world where the U.S. government can't touch them.
Like
And
production tax breaks. You'll go wherever the tax break is greatest.
Right.
You're not loyal to New Mexico.
Well, so unless Al Gore pulls the plug on that internet,
He was
it's
great.
safe. Let's talk about Market Rebellion because I know you guys are trying to help people learn about stocks and options, crypto, and all that. I think you just did, but how does where would people can go to marketrebellion.com and what will they find there?
They're going to find everything they want to know about the markets itself. They're going to find out about the options world, the derivatives world as it's known, and it's very confusing, but they have to be educated. That's one of the biggest things that John and I always want to make sure is that anybody who ever gets into the markets understands exactly what their risks are. And that was a big story over the last year or so, especially when you're talking about all these new traders, new investors into the marketplace. That changed everything. And suddenly we had all these folks, but the problem is they didn't really know exactly how much risk they had at times. And that was part of the whole Robinhood thing. It was part of all of those different things. And so that's something that we just want to make sure that people, when they're going to get involved in the markets, that they know what they're doing. They're educated from us or anybody else, but they get educated at Market Rebellion. We've got great people there. And then John and I, of course, have always focused on the options markets. We've been in these. You've been there since 1981. I've been there since 1992. And we just, we love the leverage. And if you go back to the financial crisis, we lost all leverage, right? I mean, that's what really changed in the markets, except the options world still existed. And to give you a small example, you go back to 2007, give or take, during the financial, all the different issues going on. And I think what were we averaging per day? Maybe 12 million?
Yep.
Maybe about 12 million a day. Now we average 45 million.
This is option contracts traded per day.
Yeah.
So it's tripled since the financial crisis.
And each one of those contracts represents 100 shares of stock. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of just how big it has become and the growth trajectory we've had. Matter of fact, even through the financial crisis, it's amazing because our biggest year ever, and every year has been bigger than the previous. Our biggest year ever, I think, 2019, I think we were about 20 million. And now we're 45 million. Gives you a small idea of just the huge growth. Per day, every single day.
These guys look like the tag team champions of the world, and here they're dropping all this comprehensive knowledge.
You jocks and your stocks.
So last time you were on, I got very interested, very curious, started dabbling, don't know what I'm doing. And I'm fine with that. I'm just trying to learn because you really did make me very curious about all this. So I'm wondering for people who, are interested in, maybe they've done like normal stock, normal day trading, that kind of thing. Is there such thing as a safe cryptocurrency to kind of just to get started, or that's not a thing like it would be in the stock market?
If you're looking for price appreciation, and you don't have to, because you could go from regular fiat money, the stuff in your wallet, to digital and go right into something like a stable coin. It's not going to go up and down in price like USDC. It's just a stable coin. It's always a dollar. But once you're out of fiat and into that digital currency, you can flip from there into Bitcoin, into Ethereum, into Tron, into Litecoin, into any of the 16,000
Really?
digital assets that are out there.
I'm reading here, by the way, that Miramax sued Quentin
Yes.
Tarantino in November over Pulp Fiction.
We talked about that.
NFTs.
Yeah, because they said that's not yours, that's ours.
We even know they're still in business.
Before we say goodbye, let's talk quickly about the whole 9/11 heat seeker algorithm thing. I find that very interesting. I think our audience would.
Well, and Pete and I, we were both on the floor at the time, and 9/11 occurs, and you're seeing the planes fly into the buildings
You're on
and
the
so
stock
forth.
exchange.
Yep, we're down there on the floor watching it on TV, and then and we're both private pilots. So when we saw the damage that was done to the buildings, we said, well, that wasn't a little plane, because they said at the time, it was some small plane flew into the World Trade Center.
Yeah,
And
there
we're
were
like,
stories
"No."
of private planes hitting the Empire State Building and a fog bank and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you're in the financial district, so you're not too far away.
You're downtown.
So we see all this playing out, and then we go back and we say, didn't we have a lot of volume on the put side in United Airlines and American Airlines? A put is basically a bet on the downside of the market. In this case, the downside of United or American Airlines. And those are the only puts they bought.
How is that different than shorting? I don't know.
Same thing,
But you got leverage.
Yep.
Okay.
You've got leverage and less risk, because if you own a put, you can only lose what you paid for it. if you short the stock
Whatever
and
you
it does a
traded in,
GameStop
yeah, okay.
and it starts running to $400,
You're out that- yeah, okay.
you're losing all that money. So anyway, the unusual activity then showed us that there were a lot of big bets placed just 2 and 3 days before the planes flew into the buildings in only those two stocks, United and American Airlines, betting that those stocks would go down a lot. And of course, they were right. We gave our data over to the FBI. And
Foreign money, I'm assuming.
Yep, it came out of ultimately it came out of Germany, but that's
Really?
where the terror cells were based prior to
Sure.
coming here and learning how to fly a plane, but not how to land it.
Right.
And Adam, I got one other thing real quick. Just like that, but the financial crisis, Bear Stearns was trading at close to $70 a share. This is pre-financial crisis. That was the first biggie that was going to go down, but it's trading about $70 a share, give or take. The CEO is on TV, he's on CNBC saying everything is fine. Everybody says everything's fine. And I look over at John and I go, that's really kind of weird because we just had some huge put buying. Again, same sort of a story. They were buying puts at the 30 strike, which means basically they're betting this thing's going to zero.
Right.
And sure enough, it pretty much did.
Who was
And
they?
Yeah, who?
The giant traders that are coming in there who are really smart, and that's why John and I call
And
it
anonymous.
follow the
Right.
smart money, but huge hedge fund types.
Are we
those
talking
types.
Christian Bale from The Big Short? You know, I mean, like
Well, he was a hedge fund manager.
right,
in the
the
movie.
guys that were seeing things that everyone said, "Oh, you're crazy."
Right, it's like that. Yes, it's a version of that in the derivatives market where you get all the leverage in the world to be able to do it, and then sure enough, we had all the rest of the financials started getting the same type of thing. And it's just amazing how it sort of gives you a little bit of a crystal ball into the future sometimes.
They did that in General Motors before they went bankrupt. Stocks like $30, $35. They're betting that it's going to go below 5 in the next 2 months. And it's like, well, that's a fool's bet. Why would you bet that? But then, of course,
They
they
have to
knew
know
more about the
something.
balance sheet and how much borrowing they'd have to do, and they didn't have enough cash, and the stock went bankrupt.
I just want to, for a second, make sure that we're not slandering terrorists by comparing them to hedge fund managers. We have a pretty broad
it's a good-
audience.
We don't want to
and
have to retract that later.
I don't want to have to walk
Don't be
that back.
responsible.
All right, John and Pete Najarian, Market Rebellion is the name of the firm.